Hey everyone, welcome to the Law of Attraction Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Keith, and I was thinking about this the other day because I am right around the 5 year anniversary of my book deal. And to this day, that book deal, all of the books have been one of the most miraculous manifestation stories of all, of everything, big, small that I manifested. It's one of my favorite because it just happened so effortlessly and it felt so easy. No part of the process felt hard or forced or difficult. And it got me thinking, why do some things manifest effortlessly and quickly while other things take so long and feel so difficult? Right? This is something I get asked a lot. Like, why is it when it comes to money, I never can seem to manifest it, or it seems so hard? Or how come I can manifest everything else, but I can't manifest love, different things like that. And I started thinking about, okay, what are the things in my life that manifested effortlessly in ways that I never could have predicted? And how can I look at that and reverse engineer it to figure out what was I doing differently? Was there a certain pattern in all of the things that manifested so easily that I did that I didn't do with the things that either didn't manifest or just felt very hard or took a really long time? And so that's what I want to go over today using the story of how I manifested my book. Because again, this was one of the most mind-blowing things that have happened. So it started out where there was a point in time where I really was like all about, okay, I'm going to manifest a book. And I was very in my head about it and thinking about how hard it's going to be. I was thinking about, well, I have to put together a proposal and then I have to hire an agent. And then that agent has to go and pitch it to all of these publishing companies. And I've never written anything before. So the chances of them saying yes are like next to nothing. And I really got in my head about it. And at the time, I was talking to a few authors that basically talked me out of it. I mean, they were making it sound like these publishers are just going to take all your money and take the rights to your work and da da da, da, and the process is so hard, and you're going to have to travel all over the place doing a book tour to promote it. And I was like, this doesn't even sound like something I want anymore. And I like put it out of my head. And it was about a year. I don't remember if it was a year later, 2 years later. I was doing a vision board party right around Christmas time. And so this would have been Christmas like 2020 going into 2021. And I was pulling up some of my past vision boards as examples. And I had a whole board that I pulled up on writing a book. And as soon as I looked at that board, it was like all of these feelings came flooding back of like, this is unfinished business. Like, I know I'm supposed to do this at some point in my life. So it was more of like an intuitive nudge, like you're not done with this goal. It was just, paused, but maybe reconsider it. It was just kind of like that, like just very, like, maybe I should put this on my vision board for this year. And so I did. I like literally in that vision board party, I'm like, you know what? I'm putting this on my vision board. Now, when I put it on the vision board, this is key. So this is like the first thing that is a pattern with all the things I've manifested very easily is detachment. So I wasn't clingy. I wasn't like clinging on to this goal like I had been prior when I had it on my vision board before, where I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do it this way and I have to, and there was so much pressure around it. There was zero pressure. I put it on my vision board and I literally like had kind of this open, like I didn't have an expectation at all other than at some point in my life, I know I'm going to write a book. So it wasn't like this has to happen this year, or I hope it happens within the next 5 years. Nothing like that. It was literally like, I know I'm going to write a book in my lifetime. Like it was just certainty, and there was no expectation, no time frame. So that's another thing, like no time frame, no expectation, meaning I was totally detached. Like I just knew I'm going to do this in my life. And that was that. Like I don't need to worry about it right now. This is something I can worry about later. I'm not going to worry about it now. For fun, I'm putting it on my vision board. So it was very relaxed, very like no attachment whatsoever to how it had to happen, when it had to happen, or anything in between. So that's number one. Like, this is why I tell people don't put a timeline on your goals because from my experience and from working with a lot of different people, whenever there is a time frame, even if you don't realize it consciously, it is putting pressure on you that is absolutely not necessary because you can't see into the future with your conscious mind. And so there's absolutely no reason that you should be trying to guess or predict when it's going to happen. Just let it happen in its own timing because you put this timeline on and now you feel rushed at the nervous system level. And as you get closer and closer and closer to that timeline, if it hasn't manifested yet, you start to get in your head and your logical mind starts to self-sabotage, thinking like, well, I haven't done enough. There's not enough that's taking place right now. There's no way it's going to manifest by then. And I just see people spiral. So I always say just get rid of the timeline. And in this instance, and in all of the instances where things have manifested effortlessly and I didn't put a timeline, they happened fast. So it's almost like the opposite of what you want. Like I don't put the timeline and it manifests faster than I ever would have thought. Because if I were to put a timeline on this goal of writing a book, my timeline probably would have been my entire life, or like in 10 years from now. And that would have limited me because what ended up happening was a month later, I received a message on Instagram from a woman who said, hey, I'm with this publisher. We're writing a manifestation book. We want you to write it. Are you interested? So that probably wouldn't have happened had I put that time frame on it. And if it did happen, maybe I wouldn't have even seen it. You know what I mean? Like my subconscious might have like shielded it in some way. Maybe the message would have gotten lost or deleted in the shuffle or whatever. And when I saw the message, I just kind of like dismissed it. I'm like, this is probably a scam or something, or she's going to sell me something. And so I was just like, hi, here's my email if you want to send me the details. That was it. And then I just kind of let it go. Like I didn't think about it really until she emailed me with the details and I started to see this was actually a real thing. Um, so that detachment is so key. And the other thing is like, how did I feel when I put it on my vision board? I had fun with it. Like I was in sort of a playful, creative, fun state. It was a vision board party, we're like putting all these pictures together. So we're using creativity, but like I think we were drinking wine and like just very relaxed, very fun environment. And that is another big key is like, are you having fun with it? Um, in the book, I have affirmations all throughout the book, and one of the affirmations is the more fun I have, the more abundance I attract. And this has been true my entire life. Like absolutely ever since I even learned about the law of attraction, the goals and the things that I have the most fun with manifest faster, easier, better than I could even imagine. There is something to that fun, playful energy We know from a neuroscience standpoint, it activates the right hemisphere of the brain, which when you're overthinking things, you're in the left side of the brain. And we tend to be there more often because that's how we're conditioned as a society in school and work. We're just very conditioned to rely on our logical mind. And so when you're having fun and you're doing something creative like a vision board party, it helps to bring on that right hemisphere of the brain to bring you into balance because we're usually out of balance. And I think that that is so key when it comes to manifesting, tapping into your intuition, and also detaching, right? Because when you're having fun, you're not anxious and worried. How is it going to manifest? When's it going to manifest? What do I need to do? Like you're relaxed, you're having fun. And so fun is like a huge part of the manifestation process. If you're not having fun, you're making it way harder than it needs to be. So have fun with it. So vision board party, like perfect example. But along those lines of having fun, I want to get to like the second big point, which is visualization. Like, what are you seeing in your mind's eye when it comes to that goal, right? Because you have to have the intention, the vision, in order to get clear on it. And what I realized is this was more of a daydream, okay? Because in my mind, a daydream is fun, right? It's like an imaginary world in your mind, and you're just doing it for the hell of it. You're just daydreaming, and you don't give a lot of like thoughts or pressure to your daydreams. You just let your mind kind of wander, right? That's what it felt like. When we say visualization, I think sometimes that can put too much pressure and expectation. I know I do this with myself a lot, where if I'm like in a visualization and I'm trying to like visualize my future self, there is a little bit of pressure and expectation behind it. But when I'm just daydreaming, it's like complete detachment. I'm just having fun with it, you know? And usually that happens like when I'm driving. You know, you're driving the same route, so your subconscious kind of takes over and you go on autopilot and you just start daydreaming. That's what this was like with my book. And I've had looking back, I've had different moments where I daydreamed about writing a book. And one of the first was when I read the book The Secret. And if you've ever read the book The Secret, you know that the inside of the book is gorgeous. It's like it's not just a nice cover. Every page is that like thick, glossy, um, good paper. And then it has illustrations on it that look like scrolls. And it just looks like magical, and it feels different when you're reading it, because you have this extra sense added to it of like the visualization while you're reading the words. And I think it's more potent. And on the cover of The Secret, you can like rub your hand on it. It's not a smooth cover. It's like the seal kind of pops out. And so I just remember kind of like having this daydream of writing a book that's like The Secret, that just has that feel. You just open it up and you're like, oh wow, like this is magical. Like I'm hanging on to this. This isn't going to get tossed out or thrown in a garage sale. This is something you keep on your bookshelf and you like pass down to your kids, you know? And so it was just this was like way before I ever even thought it's a possibility of writing a book. I mean, I was like in the corporate world at this point, very new to law of attraction, but I just had that thought, like, writing a book like that and having it look so beautiful. And it was just a simple daydream, nothing major. The second daydream came about when I had my like awakening moment, where I was just like, I really realized I was done with the path that I was on and I needed to go on a new path. And I had that intuitive hit that I'm going to write a book someday, which made no sense. But the daydream that was playing out in my mind was I was picturing a young woman reading my book that I hadn't created yet. I didn't even know what the book would be about because this was like before Law of Attraction Tribe. Again, I was in the corporate world. But I pictured this woman reading this book and the book igniting something in her, like giving her that spark of inspiration that would set her on a new path and kind of open up her to go and chase her dreams. And again, like it was more of a daydream, like a I didn't think about it in terms of this is what my future holds, like this is what's going to happen. It was just a fun thought, a fun, mind movie with zero expectation or attachment around it. And since then, since I wrote the book, I get messages like that. And I remember the first message I got where it was a young woman and she said, "Hey, I saw your book at the bookstore and it just jumped out at me. It's so beautiful. And I read it and it's literally had me rethink everything. And I'm not happy where I'm at right now, but now I feel so hopeful that I can go on this new path." And it's like it was playing out like how my daydream played out, which is just so wild because when I was daydreaming about it, I wasn't thinking, I wasn't trying to visualize. I was just having a fun thought in my mind. And like it has played out multiple times with multiple different people, um, which is so wild to me. It's so wild. And so part of me wonders, and I talked about this on a recent episode, if when we get these intuitive hits, these nudges, is that our future self kind of like letting us know, hey, everything's going to be okay. This is going to work out. Follow this path. Because we know time isn't linear. Like we know that. We know it's all an illusion. Science, admits that for the most part now. So maybe there's a part of us connected to this grand consciousness that is coming back and kind of letting us know, like, hey, this is going to change your life. And that's that intuitive nudge. And maybe our daydreams and our dreams, because what happens when you're daydreaming? You're not, this is the difference, okay, between daydreaming and doing a visualization. And I'm not knocking visualization. I think it's very beneficial for a lot of reasons. But here's the difference. When you are sitting down to visualize with the intention of visualizing your future, your conscious mind is involved, right? And there's an expectation. When you're daydreaming, nobody like sits down and thinks like, I'm going to daydream right now. It just happens naturally when you're on autopilot, meaning your subconscious is in control, which by the way, our subconscious is in control 95% of the time. So most of the day, your mind is kind of wandering. A lot of times it'll wander to things that are maybe a little bit negative, things that are stressing you out. But again, if you just like relax, calm your nervous system, you start to daydream. And maybe the daydreams and the dreams we have at night, when our conscious mind is turned off, are little glimpses of the future. Not all of them, obviously, but like maybe some of them are. And maybe that was a little glimpse that I had when my conscious mind was quieted and not butting in. That came through. So, um, another like fun little thing to finish the actual story. So like the woman, the publisher emails me and tells me a little bit about the company. And so, of course, the first thing I do is I Google it. I start researching, like, is this a legit company? Because I had never heard of it before. And the first thing that popped out was how they are known for their illustrations. They've actually won awards for their illustrative work. And I thought, well, that's weird because I'm not writing like a children's book where there would be illustrations. So, like, interesting. And I just kind of like had that thought. And then it hit me a little while later, like, wait a minute. I love the book The Secret and how there's illustrations on the pages. Maybe they can do something like that with mine, and it's not going to be just a boring, like ugly, flimsy book, but like maybe it'll be really high quality like that and just have that same magical element to it. And this was again just kind of like a fleeting thought. Like I didn't really sit down and think about it. I just thought that'd be cool. Like, wouldn't that be cool if it's like the secret, you know? And so, anyhow, I go through the process of working on the book, and a little while later, she emails me. Well, I guess this was quite a ways later. She emails me pictures and says, "Hey, I worked with our creative team. We looked at your Instagram page and your website and really like the vibe and are trying to recreate that with the book. So this is a rough draft. We can definitely change it and go a different angle, but we wanted to send you some samples to see if we're on the right track." And they sent me the samples, and it was like, I remember telling her, if you went inside my head and pulled out exactly what I had visioned for the book, this would be it. I mean, it's so me. It's so like what I would pick. And, but better, but like way better than my mind could ever imagine. And again, it's like it was just so effortless and so easy. And we didn't really have to make any changes because they just nailed it. But I think part of that was the fact that I was making the process easy because I was so unattached to it. And so that gets me to the third point, which is to trust those intuitive nudges that you get. This in my entire life, now that I know how powerful our intuition is, I can kind of go back and look at different moments throughout my life where I got those intuitive nudges and trusted it and followed it. And every single time they've led me in the right direction. I cannot think of one time in my life where I followed a nudge and then I regretted following the nudge. I can't think of a time. In fact, I want to challenge you right now listening. Go back, think about your entire life from childhood to now, where you just had a really strong feeling that you couldn't explain, but you had this feeling and you decided to trust it. Do you regret that? Is there one instance you can think of where you regretted an intuitive nudge? Because I know it's never led me astray. And I think it's really, really important that we learn how to recognize that it's an intuitive nudge and that it's not our logical mind butting in, and that we learn to trust it and to follow that and let it lead us to things that we can't even imagine. So, when it's an intuitive thought, this is a super quick test you can do right now to understand how your intuition speaks to you. Okay, so if you can close your eyes and relax. If you're driving or whatever, don't close your eyes, obviously, but you can still kind of follow along and just take like a nice couple calming breaths. Like breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Repeat that. Just really try to calm yourself, center yourself. And if you can, close your eyes. Now, I want you to ask, where do I feel it in my body when my intuition speaks to me? And immediately, what do you feel? Don't overthink it. Just what do you feel right now? In your body, is there a certain area where you get like a sensation or a tingling feeling? That's the same feeling you'll get when you get these intuitive nudges. And now you can ask, what you're doing is asking your subconscious mind, what does it feel like when it's your logical mind or fear or anxiety speaking to you? How does that show up in your body? And again, right now, what are you feeling? Do you feel it tightness in your chest or something in the pit of your stomach? Any sensations that it's usually very different from where you feel your intuition. And that's how you can tell the difference. So for me, if it's anxiety or fear or thinking I have to do something some way, I get like a tightness in my chest. If it's my intuition, I get like a tingling on my lips. And it's just an easy way to differentiate and to know which one you want to trust. So, anyhow, back to the story of trusting those nudges. That first nudge I got, it was like, you're going to write a book someday. And what that felt like from an intuitive standpoint was complete certainty. Certainty. And this is another way you can differentiate if this is your intuition versus your, you know, logical brain. Your logical mind, along with if you have anxiety, fear, doubt, it's going to be uncertain. It's going to come in the form of a question like, are you sure you want to do this? What do you think might happen? It'll be some form of a question in your mind. Your intuition, it'll be absolute certainty. Now, here's the thing, you might not understand it. So for me, it was like, you're going to write a book someday. So much certainty throughout my entire body. But I had no idea what that meant. Like, what do you mean? I'm not a writer. Like, at the time, that was so far out of my mind, but it was complete certainty. So it's like you get this statement. It's not a question, it's a statement with certainty. And you might not be able to explain it, but you feel it. You just know. It's like an inner knowing. That's the intuitive nudge. So I got the nudge that I would do this someday. Then when I'm contacted, years later by this woman that works with the publisher, talk about like worst timing, right? So I put this on my vision board thinking it's going to happen like years from now, if it does happen, like sometime in my lifetime. A month later, I get this call and I happen to be very, very pregnant. So this was uh, middle to end of January, and I was due the beginning of March. And not only was I super pregnant, but this was with my son, and it was a very, very difficult pregnancy. I my body just hurt all the time. And it was hard at that point to even stand and walk. Like all I wanted to do was sit down because I just had so much pain. Um, and it just was not easy. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And on top of that, Amelia, my middle child, was a year old, right? So she's a toddler crawling around, getting into everything. And then my oldest was homeschooled because it was during COVID times, right? So I'm thinking in my logical mind, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? My house is not quiet. I'm chasing after a toddler all the time, helping my oldest get through the COVID and this homeschool craziness that's happening right now. Um, and my husband was working all the time, and I'm super pregnant and in all this pain, and I'm about to have a newborn, so logically it made no sense. But I remember getting that intuitive nudge of, yeah, you're doing this. You're going to do it, and it's all going to work out. And that was it. It was very certain, like, yes, you're doing this, and yes, it will work out. Yes, you will meet the deadline and get it done. And I remember um, my family just saying, are you sure about this? Like, it sounds great, but the timing, it's just not good timing. Why don't you just tell them, hey, you know what? The timing, it's just not going to work this time, but maybe we can do this in the future. Because logically, it made no sense, but I couldn't explain it, but I just knew, no, I have to do this and I'm going to do it and it's all going to work out okay. And it did. And, here I'm signing a book deal the end of January and having it done by the end of March and having a newborn in between that time. Um, but what ended up happening was I swear like my intuition wrote the book for me. It really just came through intuitively, like the whole thing. It's wild. So what I would do is again just let my mind kind of wander, go in my little daydream world. And I had all of these notes on my phone for like each chapter because we did have an outline. So I had each chapter as a separate doc. And as I would go through the day, I would get these downloads, is the best way to describe it. These like intuitive downloads. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is like profound. And I would open up my phone, go to that note and jot it down. And this would happen every single day. I would get these nudges and I would just immediately write it down. And little by little, that started to like form the book. And then I would get like a nudge of like, oh, remember when this happened in your life? Like that would be a good story for the book. Okay, what chapter would that go in? Okay, I'm going to open it. I'm going to add it to that notes section. And that's like literally how I got this done. Because let me tell you something, with a 1 year old and a homeschooler and being super pregnant and uncomfortable and in pain, I wasn't about to open up my computer for hours and just like have everything come to me. Like that just, you hear about people getting writer's block, and I think that's why they're like overthinking it. But I just let it all flow, really, and then pieced it all together later. But for like the majority of the time, I just let it all flow intuitively. And that's how I got it done. And it was, I remember when I signed, I remember before I signed, I sent an email to the publisher and I said, I'm about to have a baby. Number one, is there any way we can extend the timeline of when it's due, the due date? Number two, like I am, I have 3 kids. I'm gonna have an infant, toddler, homeschooler. I can't travel all over the place doing like a book tour or anything like that. So before I sign, I just need to know that like you're okay with that. And they were okay with it. And they did give me a little bit of an extension. And so after that, I set the intention that this process is going to be so easy and so effortless. And the publisher is going to just leave me alone. Like they're not going to make me revise everything. They're going to be happy with it. And I can just enjoy my baby and not be like caught up in this crazy editing process, which everyone told me would take months and just be super stressful and horrible. So I set that intention and I got the book done by all those intuitive nudges and then later just went and pieced it all together. And I did read through it like multiple times and I would make little tweaks here and there. And I sent it to the publisher, my final copy. And here's the thing, like I was at this point, I had already had Aiden. So I didn't have a choice. Like I had to just let it go. Like I had to just trust that the universe is handling this. And I do not have the energy or the mind space to go through months of editing. So I'm just turning it in and trusting it'll all work out okay. And talk about letting go. Like I had no option. I had to let go and detach because I was like sleep deprived at this point with my newborn. I didn't have another choice. And I remember the editor calling me and or no, she didn't call me. We got on a Zoom meeting and I was so nervous because I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like she has no idea. Like I can't do this right now. And she said, hey, she said, we're all talking about you. And I said, okay, is it that bad? And she's like, no, we're all talking. We all fight over who gets to work with you because you're like the easiest person to work with. And she said, we went through it and, there's some grammatical things that we corrected, but we love it and we're leaving it as is. We don't want to change any chapters or stories or anything. It looks great. So we're just going to make these grammatical changes and And yeah, I think we'll be good. You can just look it over and see, what changes we made. And then if it's all good, we can move forward. And I mean, I was like stunned. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Everyone, I'm thinking everyone told me it's going to be this long, grueling process. And she was just so nice and so sweet. And they knew I just had a baby, and I'm sure that played into them being like very accommodating, and just they were wonderful to work with. And it was like that intention that I set completely came true. Like they never ever. It was almost like I manifested it too good because they never bothered me. They never like they just really let things flow and did not pressure me to do things I didn't want to do. Didn't put a lot of work on me other than like writing the content, and were just so easy to work with and didn't require a million meetings. And it was like everything I was told about the writing process and the publishing process, none of that happened. Like literally none of it. And so had I listened to all these people that said it's one way instead of trusting my intuition, I probably never would have said yes. But I trusted my intuition, and I pretty much just declared it's going to be easy because it has to be. There's no other choice for me. I'm having a newborn. Like, I can't do all this stuff, all this extra work. And that's how it played out. And so that's the story. And I have another one. Have another couple things to add to the story. So this I wrote the book, but it was like a while before it actually was published. There's like a whole process on the back end of like getting it in stores and stuff. And so I remember again, like I did not really write this down or think about it. I just, in my daydreaming, as I was driving or whatever, um, I just pictured myself walking into Barnes and Noble and like picking my book off the shelf and like taking a picture with it. And I remember just thinking like, wow, if it got in Barnes and Noble, like that would be cool. And that was it. No like stress about it. I didn't honestly like I didn't even really think it would. I'm like, I don't know that it'll make Barnes and Noble. I didn't really think anything of it or have an expectation. I just thought that'd be cool. That would be fun. Going into a bookstore and seeing my book. Um, so fast forward, they made a whole separate title, like a specific version of the book exclusively for Barnes and Noble. And I remember when it hit the shelves, I went with my daughter and found the book, and I didn't realize it until like I was holding it in my hand and we went to take a picture. I'm like, "Oh my God, I visualized this. Like I saw this in my daydream just playing out exactly like that." And so again, I think because there was no pressure around it. It just manifested effortlessly. Or maybe that was my daydream giving me a glimpse into the future. And then the other crazy thing was we were at Five Below, the store, and I was with my daughter, and I saw that they had all of these books on things like affirmations and journaling and astrology. And I was looking at them and I was like, I didn't even realize they carried books like this. That would be so cool if someday like I had a book and Five Below because there's thousands of those stores. And I mean, if it was in every store, like it would sell so many copies. How cool would that be? And again, that was it. Like I didn't write it down. I didn't think about it again, to be honest with you. I thought about it in that moment and then let it go. It never came to my mind again until a while later. And this is what's crazy too. My publisher didn't even tell me about it. Someone messaged me on Instagram with a picture of this book, and it had a different title, a different cover, but it said by Stephanie Keith. And she like sent me a few pages. I'm like, that's my name and those are my words. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like someone it copyrighted me because I didn't, this book is not my book. And so I kind of panicked and I emailed the publisher like all the photos and everything. And I was like, I think someone copied my book. And she responded and she's like, oh no, Five Below picked it up. We created a mini version for Five Below stores. And she's like, I can't believe like no one reached out to you to tell you this. Like, I'm so sorry. But yeah, like that is your book. We just it's just a different like version of it. And so here, like this crazy thing effortlessly manifested very quickly. And I didn't even know about it. Like it had been in stores for a while before I actually even knew, like, oh, that's me. So again, it's just like so many things within this process that manifested that felt effortless. And when I say effortless, like, yeah, I had to put some effort into it, obviously, in writing a book, but it never felt forced. It never felt hard. And it really felt fun. Like I'm writing about my favorite topic in the world. It was a fun process, daydreaming about it, not putting pressure on it. That is why it manifested this effortlessly. And when I look back at all of the fast, easy things that manifested in my life, those are the keys. So to recap, number one, detachment. Don't be clingy. Don't have these crazy expectations and time frames. Just have the thought, like I did, put it on your vision board, write it down, whatever, and then let it go. Don't worry about it. Let the universe have fun with it because the more logical you get with it, where you're focusing on it, the more you're like kind of influencing the process. Let the universe just figure out the fastest, best, easiest, most fun way that it can happen. So detachment is key. Number two, daydream. Just daydream. Like it doesn't have to be this whole big production. Just let your mind wander. Let your mind go where it's going to go and let your imagination run wild. And the more fun you can have with that, the better. So again, if a vision board is fun, great. But just don't put a lot of pressure around it. The more fun you have, the more you're going to attract. Remember that. And then the third thing is trusting those intuitive nudges. So if and most people, I think you can probably pinpoint what an intuitive nudge is. But if you can't, start to get familiar with that. How does it come through and trust it, even when it makes no sense from a logical standpoint that you can see. Trust that there is a bigger picture and it's not going to lead you astray. And your intuition it's not going to give you the step-by-step process all up front. It's not going to hand you a blueprint. It's going to give you one little nudge and you take that nudge and you follow it. Take action, say yes, whatever. And then it'll give you another little nudge. And it probably isn't going to make sense again, but you do it anyways. You trust it, you follow it. And then another little nudge. So it's like giving you breadcrumbs. It's not giving you the map. So that's it. So it's like completely against what we've been taught that the more you plan and the more you think and the more logical you are and the more action you take, the more you're going to manifest. Not true. Not true. There is a hard way and there's an easy way. This is the easy way. This is the shortcut. And I hope that you try it. And when you do and crazy things start to manifest effortlessly and fast, please let me know. I love hearing your stories. It's so fun for me. Like it is, you have no idea. Like when I get a message from someone and they're like, oh my gosh, guess what happened? It really makes my whole day. It's so motivating to see that. So reach out to me. The best way to connect with me is to send me a message on Instagram at Law of Attraction Tribe. I actually do check all of my messages. If it's spam, I delete it right away. So don't send any spammy, um, but send me your stories of what happens when you follow this and you let go and you just trust and things start manifesting like crazy. And I will see you in the next episode.